All right, welcome everyone. The last session of day one of XDC. We got the entire engineering team sitting up here with me, and they are super excited to take your questions. I mean, they keep interrupting me all day. I can't wait to take questions from the audience. So the way this is going to work is you get a question, you need to raise your hand so I can call on you. And then I will repeat the question for everyone to hear, and then maybe I'll hand it off to someone, maybe I'll answer it, maybe I'll ignore it. It's a surprise. We'll see. So if you got something, shoot those arms up in the air, and if you don't, we'll have a longer break before we go out to dinner tonight. And right in the front row, I see David, who always has a question on the tip of his tongue, so let's hear it.
Why is it taking so long to put workers into the web app?
David's question is, why is it taking so long to put workers into the web app? Well, because we're not working on doing that currently. As with everything in Xojo, things have priorities, and workers for the web app is certainly on a list of things, but it hasn't bubbled up high enough of a priority for someone to actually work on it to make that happen. So that's the state that is in.
Is it likely to be more difficult than having put it into the desktop, or is it?
Okay, now that's a good question. Good job. I like that question. Would adding workers to web apps be more difficult than it was to add it to desktop apps? Yeah, I don't really think it would be significantly more difficult, really. It's just more of, slotting things in to getting a time to get it done. I mean, the web apps are a little bit different, of course, but I mean, most of this is console-based and doesn't require any super specific desktop-related things. So, all right, and we're going from the very front row to the very back row. I see Jim is jumping up and down back there.
I'll phrase it so you have to answer it. How difficult would it be to support Apple Watch?
Here's a great question. I love answering these questions with, quippy little things, but how difficult would it be to support Apple Watch? I have no idea, but I'm going to pass that off to someone who might. So let's see. I'm either thinking Javier or Travis might have a thought.
Yeah, the issue is that it is a bit difficult in the sense that the frameworks that are provided on the watch are different from iOS, and if you've seen the statistics out there from surveys, most people use the watch as a fitness and health tracker and notification manager, and even big companies that had third-party apps have now stopped. Like there's no longer an Uber watch app, there's no longer a Microsoft Authenticator watch app. So there's actually hasn't been that much demand for app support on Apple Watch, and given its difficulty, that's why it's not there today.
That sounds sensible. A quote from Bob. I love it. All right, surely people all have questions. I mean, we didn't fly some of us fly all the way across that pond to just get two questions. There's got to be a lot of questions here. Yeah.
With the Android, you discussed declares as a way of getting around the absence of plugins. Is Christian going to be able to sell more plugins eventually on Android, or is that something that's on the roadmap, or not at all?
Is Christian going to be able to sell more plugins for Android? I don't know Christian's plans, but certainly with the declare stuff, he could be building up libraries of the type of things he usually provides with his plugins, I would think, yeah.
Let me rephrase the question. Will there be plugins on Android, or are declares going to be the method of doing that?
Yes. All right. So the question is, will there be plugins as we have them today on Android, or will the declare library thing that we talked about kind of be the way to do that? And I'll let Travis answer that more specifically than I can today.
Well, the plugins will take a bit of a different form, but there will be plugins in the sense that you as a user use them and that Christian could make and distribute. So I'm being careful with my language there because it's not exactly the same as the other platforms. But yes, plugins are absolutely on the roadmap. And while I can't speak for Christian, he's hopped on things very quickly after we provide them.
He has a session in the next day or two, and he's probably going to announce some he's already written. So, yeah, David, you get free reign. No one else is jumping in. So,
some of the areas you've moved into have been treading a bit on Christian's toes. Charts, PDF, coming up databases. Are you concerned about moving into sort of affecting Christian, putting him off?
well, I know we're in Europe and everyone loves Christian. David is asking if we feel we maybe are stepping on some of Christian's toes with some of the newer features we are adding to Xojo. And have you seen the amount of stuff in Christian's plugins? We barely have touched on anything at this point. But there are a few core features that kind of Xojo needs as a baseline to, table stakes type thing. And if we find those and we feel we need them, we're going to have to add those because the product itself is going to need them. And if someone else is providing something similar, that's the way it's going to be. But the stuff we provide is usually, it's the start of something useful. It's great for most people. Someone's like Christian's plugins probably will build on that a lot and still provide a lot of value, even over what we build into the system. Michael?
Are you planning to introduce something like a database dictionary manager or something like that so that you don't have to implement always for every database or create a new file or so that you can do that by Xojo? Inside? Is it an inside job? I don't understand.
So we're planning to do a database.
Dictionary manager. Well, you have to have the structure of the database inside Xojo or not in the database.
I see. Okay, yeah, I get what you're saying now. Yeah, some of what you heard. Oh, let me repeat the question first. Michael is asking if we're planning on anything regarding a database dictionary manager, so to speak, that allows you to access the database schema directly from Xojo. And Jeff touched on that very briefly when he talked about the database connection class in his keynote. And we have a very large amount of things that we're working towards regarding databases. And the database connection class is kind of the lowest level of all the things we want to add. But the ability to access and work directly with the database schema from within Xojo is absolutely something we want to be able to add to the product, and we are working towards. There was one in the back. Shost.
Long time ago, we talked about the report generator, and I use an external one, but it would be nice if you would have one in Xojo environment, which is good enough to use. Like we have bikini software stuff, what the name of that? Shorts. Shorts, yes. But what do we have now as a replacement for all that?
So the question is, what do we have now as a replacement for the report generator that's in Xojo that, quoting Juice there, isn't really good enough to use, I think. Yep. So I'm not going to argue with him. The report generator that's in Xojo is pretty basic, and it only works with desktop apps, so it has limited usefulness. We don't have any report-related work on the roadmap that I'm aware of.
But there are third parties like Shorts still out there.
Yeah, I'm not aware of third-party report tools myself, personally. What one? Oh, yeah, that's right. I do know that one. I talk to those guys all the time. Yeah. List and Label is a reporting system. I think it's a German company, actually. But as Michael notes, it is very pricey and more expensive than Xojo itself, which might explain why making reporting tools is a challenging task. But what was the name of that one? Valentina, the database guys, also I think out of Europe here. have a reporting tool as well. That I have heard good things about that one. I haven't used that one. And in the back, Jim has something.
The XML engine is as old as I am.
If I heard that correctly, it was the XML engine is as old as you are? Wow, okay. That's hard to comment on, but... Right. I'm going to let William, since he just whispered in my ear, talk a little bit about the XML engine.
So currently, our XML parser engine only works for XML version 1. So you're looking for support for XML 2 and 3? Is that what you're trying? At least 2? Okay.
The bugs that are in there would be nice to get fixed.
All right, as you saw, it's not on a roadmap, but, like anything, it can bubble up as more people request it. So that's all I can say at the moment.
Giving you a thumbs up, everybody.
Just switch to JSON.
It's not a choice I made. If you're given XML, you're given XML.
Yeah, I hear you.
Just convert it to JSON. I have a class that does that.
All right, was there something here I saw on my left that, or someone was just fixing their hair, I think. Okay. Yeah. Well, today, I'll get to you in a second, Tobias. I'll have a little interlude here. Today was a very busy day for most of us. Javier had it pretty easy. He's just sitting up here being quiet, but he's got a couple more sessions in the next couple days. For those of you that I know have been chomping at the bit to talk to some of us individually about certain things, over the next couple days is when that will make the most sense, because we're not going to be doing as many presentations and type stuff. So certainly get in touch with us, or if you're not able to, with Dana and Alyssa, so they can reach out to us. But we'll be happy to talk with you out in the lobby area during sessions or something like that, if there's something you want to show us or things you got to ask us, or et cetera. Tobias, you had something?
Yeah, maybe another question regarding the very interesting talk with the thermal islands possibilities on Windows. The plan was to move the existing controls over to the new backend at a certain time. Will it then be possible to access the configuration at runtime of the buttons, for example, so that you can apply modifications on them, like for example, when building a cross-platform application, I can use a standard button, and on macOS I can access that using Cocoa details. And could you do something similar on Windows, accessing such a button and modifying it later on?
All right, that might be tough for me to summarize, but the gist of it I think I got after, and I'll hand this to William shortly for the real answer, is that you want to know that once the XAML controls are fully in place, that you'll still be able to directly access those through the OS to do specific things that you might need. All yours.
Well, as you know, we do have some kind of another pattern like that with the movie player. We do offer a movie controller, which is an OLE object that you can use to access some of the properties of the movie player. So we do have a handle property, but that's probably not going to be very helpful because it'd be just a pointer. So it's a possibility that we'll add something like a XAML content property. That way you're able to access everything in XAML. But definitely, file a feature request and make it known that's what you are requesting, and see if it bubbles up, and we might add that. Cool. Thank you.
Sadly, I don't know your name. Another Jim. Well, go ahead, Jim.
Some of the conversations I've had with people out here have asked the question, do you feel that because you are doing so many things on so many different technologies, are you spreading yourself too thin?
a philosophical question. Do we feel we are spreading ourselves too thin? Well, not yet. I personally think that that's why there's not a worker for the web. We have to carefully manage what we're working on so that we don't spread ourselves too thin and end up with a bunch of plates in the air and nothing getting done. So any company you could say could possibly be spreading itself too thin. Everyone has a million things to do, and our big task here is to make sure that we pick the things that we think make sense and that that you as developers feel you need the most. And that's hard to do, no doubt about it. I'll let Travis add a little bit to that, because he often, along with Jeff, is the ones that are making the final calls on this. But it's not an easy task.
Yeah, I would say for the size of the company, the size of the engineering team actually makes a lot of sense. But we try very carefully, as Paul said, to not find ourselves too overworked. But at the same time, we're constantly adding things. If you remember from the keynote, just in the past 7 months, the kind of things that we've been able to add and ship really pretty amazing, and I think the team deserves a round of applause for all of that work.
Went for the easy clapping, nice. But yeah, certainly, I've worked at a lot of companies before Xojo. Well, not a lot, but much bigger companies before Xojo. And what we are able to accomplish with such a small team is truly impressive to me, and I love it.
At least you didn't get tomatoes and eggs now. So.
Yes, I also don't know your name.
Jean-Maurice.
Jean-Maurice, okay.
Okay. Just want to know, are you going to update the webinars with the API 2.0?
A very good question. So the webinars that I used to do years and years ago are now largely all API 1, and API 2 webinars to replace those would be really nice. If you didn't notice, Jeff did recently do a webinar last month, I think. What was the topic on that, Jeff?
Intro to Programming in Xojo.
Intro to Programming in Xojo. And he's going to be doing a lot more videos and webinars focusing on a variety of topics. I don't know if they'll be API 2 specific, but whatever topics they cover will clearly be based on, they'll be using API 2, right? So we are planning to start to gear those up, because as he mentioned a little bit in the keynote, the in-person events like this aren't becoming as common as they used to be, and people do want more and more online stuff to be able to access, and we do want to be able to increase our output there. And if Jeff has things to add, I'm happy to walk the microphone back now. Shoast again, yes.
A while ago, I was very happy with the bug bash release. Are you planning to do more of these every now and then?
Yes, a question about the bug bash we did last year. For those not aware, we did a bug bash last August. So the entire team spent the entire month of August focusing just entirely on bugs that we pulled out of the issues system based on your tags and votes that you had put in there. And we didn't work on other projects then, we just were focused on bugs. And that seemed pretty popular, and I think most of us here liked it. Overall, semi-thumbs up. I mean, it was a nice change of pace and a different thing. But as related to another question we were just asked, taking a month out of a very tight schedule to do that has its downsides as well. So in the end, we decided to kind of do mini bug bashes more frequently rather than a big one that kind of shuts down all the work. So now at the beginning of each development cycle, we kind of do a couple-week bug bash where we kind of pull bugs out of the queue individually based on, again, what's ranked, and kind of get a few bugs in each release more often for you, rather than waiting for when we think we can slot off a huge slot in the scheduling. Jeff has comments, yes.
I was just going to say, as I pointed out in the keynote, already for R2 we did 17 bug fixes that fall into that category of the kind of bugs we fix in a bug bash.
Right, that's a good point. Jeff did bring that up in the keynote there where, yeah, because R2 obviously isn't out yet. It isn't even in testing yet, but it already has 17 bugs that were fixed for it. And, I think the number we hit for the bug bash was right around 100. It might have been 100 on the dot, right? Yeah. So, instead of 100 all at once, if we can do 25 4 times a year, maybe that comes out in the wash. You got a T-shirt, right? Well, I don't have any other specific little stories or anecdotes to say. Let's see. You didn't get to comment. Is there anything you wanted to just say about web in general, or are you like, I'm tired, I'm done?
I just wanted to thank everyone that is adding bugs to issues and voting them, because it's really helping us to decide which bugs we are going to fix on the next release. So thank you everybody for providing the examples and everything.
And Javier hasn't had a chance to speak, and he's kind of right now he's playing the role of the silent hero. He's playing the role of the silent hero. When Jeff mentioned this in his keynote, but many of the new features that have come out in the last 7 months were spearheaded by Javier here, where he just wakes up one morning and says, "Boom! I'm adding charts. You can't stop me." Yeah. You want to say something?
Oh well, we have a session about charts just tomorrow, so I hope to see everyone there. The same for iOS. So for anyone that wants to migrate their projects from web and desktop to iOS and never touched iOS before, so I have some tips and tricks to get you right there and move your projects from that other platforms to iOS. Let's see how it goes.
Cool. All right. Well, Dirk.
Is there any plan to also do some YouTube videos on the channel on slightly more complicated topics? Like, for instance, first, on one of the slides, it was mentioned that you could do microservices with Kubernetes. I have no idea how to do that, and that's more technical.
Right.
I don't know how many people would be interested, but I think not many people are going to use it if they don't know how to. So
Yeah, you get a bit of a catch-22. So Dirk is asking about videos, perhaps, that dive into more technical topics.
There is one about Kubernetes, but in Spanish.
Javier whispers in my ear here that there is a video online about Kubernetes, but it's in Spanish. So the question is, what is easier for you to learn on your own, Spanish or Kubernetes? We're talking tomorrow about the AI stuff. I mean, in another couple months, it'll be able to just translate that on the fly to whatever language you want. Yeah. And Bob says it probably can do that, and maybe it can. But certainly more technical videos are always, great. But as you're probably well aware, they can be really hard to build. You've got to get the right person that knows how to do it, and it takes a lot of time to do it. So we'd all love to have more of those things, but those are really hard, much harder to put together. Hopefully we can do some if there's enough interest on these sort of things. Jeff just raised his hand. He's volunteering to do that one.
I just want to say that, William has been a member of the engineering team now for more than 2 decades. And that's really dedication. He deserves a round of applause.
Impressive. All right, well, we can wrap up and mingle out there, and you can bump into us and ask us questions. And don't forget, we're meeting for dinner tonight down in the lobby around 6:30, and then we'll walk over to King's Cross. So thank you, everyone. See you all tomorrow for more sessions.